Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks some idea of what's going on in their community, in the region. And today, we are graced with our first, a big first on this program. We have a puppy that's is going to be part of this. And of course, as a lab, they don't bark very much, so you might not hear them unless you see them. Okay, with me today is Chief Esip from Esip or Esop?
Esip.
Esip from the Bourne Police Station, and Colleen
Marzzelli,
who is the puppy, I guess the puppy princess, the queen?
Yeah, her name is Callie.
What do you call that?
Handler. We'll go with handler.
Okay, handler, thank you. All right, well, today, Chief, I wanted to talk a little bit about community policing, but I know you have some things to share with the people, and I'd like to talk about what's your vision of how a police station, how a police force works with the community.
Yeah, so the community involvement is extremely important to our department. We have a great core group of officers that really enjoy being part of the community. They like doing community events. Mm-hmm. It's really incumbent upon our department to have a great cooperation with the community because honestly, without that cooperation, policing does not work. We are there to provide support for the community, to provide assistance when needed, but we rely on the community to help us with notifying us of things that are out of order, whether it be a traffic sign that needs replacement or repair, or whether it's a problem speeding issue or any other type of issue in the community. Our officers are out there in the community, but they need that help to have some of those items reported to them so that we can take enforcement actions on that.
Well, community involvement is actually essential, to a community, because that's what a well-ordered community is about. And we got great people here in Bourne, and I know that they want to be helpful. Yeah. And sometimes they might need a little direction. And to me, what's really interesting is you're actually from here.
I am. Yes, I've lived in Bourne all of my life, with the exception of going off to college. So I grew up.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to college at both Worcester Polytech. I did a year there, and then I moved on to UMass Amherst and finished off my degree at UMass. Then came back home. So I went to Hoxie School before it closed down. I've been to Bourne schools. I was a part of the group that was tested out on the base when they moved the schooling onto the base for a few years. I went from Hoxie, Peebles, Stone, and I was the first one of the first class of 8th graders in the high school when they had that prior to the middle school, and I've moved back to Bourne after college, and I have a nice house over in Sagamore Beach, and for myself, my wife, and my 2 kids.
And Sagamore Beach.
Yes.
Because I know Sagamore Beach fairly well. I grew up in Whitehorse, so yeah. I had a pal that that was down in Sagamore Beach. And I remember once taking a bicycle and riding down the old, I guess it's 3A now, riding down that way, and realizing how scary it was. And of course the hills were pretty tough as well. So people don't appreciate the fact that it is pretty hilly, as you get over there.
So most of my childhood was spent on the bike with my best friend riding to the Miles Standish Forest, driving through the forest, wherever the bike would take us. Back then you'd leave in the morning, come back when the sun started going down, and you didn't use it wasn't on the cell phone, or I don't feel that old, but there was no playing video games during the day. It was out in the road.
Get off your ass and get out there.
Doing something out in nature.
Yeah, there was a time when I used to know how to get through the Miles Standish Forest. I knew where all the turns were. I couldn't do that now. Okay, but that's another story. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what you see as as to how folks can participate in what I would call community policing.
Like I started hitting on it, it's really that involvement of letting us know, see something, say something. It doesn't just apply to serious terrorist matters. It matters to anything. If anything's observed out of order, if anything's observed that there might be some need for some type of assistance from us, we have a very well-followed Facebook page. That's a great way of communicating with. Colleen's actually one of our officers that help out with social media. Social media we're probably one of the more popular departments in the country. With we just crossed 79,000 people that follow our Facebook page, and if you think about that, our community is slightly over 20,000. So We have almost 4 times the number of people following our Facebook page as we do have residents in the town of Bourne.
Well, I think that might be part of how our population expands in the summertime, because everybody has to go through Bourne, but a lot of people have discovered how wonderful Bourne is. Like myself, I live in Bourne now. I lived in Harwich for 30 years before coming here, but I found that Bourne is really a treasure. There's a lot of natural resources here that make this an outstanding community, and your living here is proof that it is a livable community.
It's a phenomenal community. From the being out in nature with the canal bike trails, with the other bike trails in town, we have the great resources through where you can hike. There's Main Street is getting revitalized with the splash pad and the playgrounds that are being put around. It's really a great community to grow up in. I really envision myself staying here until retirement and retiring here. It's such a great community.
Yeah, George Sala just passed away, who was a
Yes.
police officer and very active in the community. So I guess that many of the police force see this as a place to stay for the rest of their life.
That's part of having that community environment. Is our officers? Most of our officers do live in town or very close to town, and so they take a vested interest. These are the parks that they're bringing their kids to. If they notice graffiti in the park, it's not just a problem that that's just my work problem. That's where they're living, and they take a vested interest in making the community a better place.
That is so important. I know that some of the rules have been relaxed as far as where residents are because of the high cost of housing. And I remember when, both when I was on the Housing Authority down in Harwich and also as a county commissioner, how important it was to find what I'd call affordable rental housing as workplace housing, so that we could give people an opportunity to be part of the community that they were involved with. Now, I don't want to leave the puppy out.
I just want to hit something right there. It's still for the community. The affordable housing is still a concern for our community, especially for our officers. We are, for the first time, getting very close to being fully staffed, but it's been a battle for us to get staffing. And one of those issues is having the officers want to live in town. It has not always been from apartments that are affordable to housing. That's something that there's still some legwork that needs to be done there.
Okay, well, I think all of us have to work on that, and I know that I've been talking to people about that as well, because it is important. It is it turns out that I think it's next Wednesday, the Upper Cape Coalition on Housing Issues is having a meeting, and I'm signed up. I'm signed on for that because sadly, it's when I used to propose housing at town meeting down in Harwich, I never really felt the love from the community. It was always about those people, and I tried to explain, and the explanation still is there, that this is not just for let's say for subsidized housing, for low income. It's also workplace housing too. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay 50, 60, grand as a starter salary. Of course, it's probably gone up more, than that as far as starter salary. But to get people to be part of your community.
Well, we had to expand. So we used to have a requirement that you lived within a certain distance of the town. I believe it was 10 miles. And we had to expand that to 30 miles, which now that opens up to quite a few communities. And as I started out with, it is so important to have that that local flavor within the department, and to have that having officers living locally, so they have that vested interest in the community. It is important that we can continue to allow officers to live in town, or at least near town, so we can get that local
involvement.
involvement.
Yeah, and the first thing that comes to mind is when I was in the military, we had a housing subsidy. We had a direct housing subsidy to sort of offset that cost. So maybe we ought to start thinking about that.
I think there's a few ways we can sit around a table and look at ways that could make it more affordable.
And this is the thing, the attitude that I think all of us have to have. Get in the same room at the same time, and let's let's see how we can work together to get this done.
And that's how it works with everything. We recently, clearly there was an issue with some traffic. I'm not sure if your viewers have witnessed.
I was in there. I was in there because I had meetings at the community center.
So part of that was just getting everyone around the table towards the end to come up with some type of solution to help remediate some of the issues.
Yeah.
And we were able to come up with a solution on Adams Street that helped with, it didn't eliminate the traffic, but at least helped with maintaining the order of the flow.
Yeah.
And as we come forward with the bridge construction, and we have the Bourne Bridge repairs coming up in the fall, it's just getting those people at the same table that can make the decisions and come up with good ideas.
Well, one of the good ideas that they came up with, in my opinion, was the traffic light that they set up that made it safe to come in, go over the Sagamore Bridge. Now, before, as I recall, when they had the the repair work going on, they had a stadium that was up the top doing a 1,000-mile stare, and not getting involved in directing traffic at all. So I think that this automation with the traffic light has not traffic calming, but traffic is help smooth out the traffic pattern. At least in my opinion, and when I forgot that was there and not gone across to the other bridge, but that's another story. Okay, I still want to talk about the puppy.
Oh, the puppy.
Okay. Why is this puppy here?
So this puppy is here. So she has just joined our department about 4 weeks ago. She will be our department's comfort dog. So we'll take her into the schools with us. We'll do community outreach with her, and then she'll be in the station with us as well.
That's wonderful. I hope you bring her to the nursing home too, because I saw that my aunt recently passed, and in the nursing home they did have a comfort dog coming in, and it did a lot for people. People really love animals.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
We've noticed in the 4 weeks that we've had her, the morale at the station has skyrocketed. People love talking to her. She walks in the morning. They don't say hi to me anymore. They say, "Oh, where's the dog? Where's the dog?" So, hey, it's
Not a
doing its
bad
job.
thing.
It's not a bad thing.
Not a
It's
bad
great.
thing. Okay.
And it's a natural, they just start petting her, and you see the smiles on their faces just without, it's not a forced interaction, and it's really one of those things that just relaxes anyone. Colleen's been great with starting to go around to the different departments in town, whether it's the fire department, the school department, and everyone loves puppies.
Yeah, well, when I was substitute teaching down in Barnstable, they had they used to have people come in with animals that they had recovered, that had been hurt. Dogs with 3 legs. They had an owl with 1 wing. Those sorts of things, and the kids really responded to that.
Yeah.
We sometimes don't give kids enough credit for the compassion that they naturally have, for animals, and for their concern about they don't want to see anybody hurt.
Right,
And
exactly.
they reach out to try to make them feel better, and in turn they feel better.
You're right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now, how did you become a handler?
I had started doing a lot of research and work into this. I thought this would be great during 2020, during COVID. I thought this would be a good way to, outreach into the kids. So there was a lot of back work behind it, trying to get a grant, to find a breeder, for training, all of that stuff. We had an interim chief at that point who thought it was a great idea, and it just took a lot of legwork to try and get to this point. So that's how we ended up here.
Well, I think it's wonderful. And now that folks know that there is a comfort dog available,
Yes.
you might start seeing an increase in demand.
I hope so. She's ready.
She?
Her name is Callie. It's a girl.
Callie.
Callie.
I see.
Yep.
And part of the involvement with the schools is that sometimes kids have difficulty expressing their feelings and emotions, and the idea is to get them petting the dog, and they just naturally will start to relax and start talking about this. So this could be from victims of assaults or more traumatic incidents, or even with adults. You have somebody that's a child commits suicide or something, and you're trying to get them through a tough time. Involving the dog is just a natural ability to start relaxing them and getting them to be able to talk about things.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great. She's going to be a great resource for the department. And Colleen is a phenomenal. I can't say how great she's been with getting the grants for this. There has been nearly zero cost to the department for the deployment of Callie, from the training to the. She was donated to us. The pet food's donated by Purina. It's really been a very smooth transition into our department.
Yeah, I know you had to bring up the the no cost or low cost, but it's really priceless to be involved with something like this. I have to say that when are you familiar with Children's Cove?
Yes.
Okay, naturally you are. And one of the things that I think shocks people, because I used to do dog and pony shows, at different towns, and they were always, well, that does, there's no abuse in our town. I said, well, I have the reports here, and unfortunately, abuse, especially child abuse, is something that is more present and prevalent than we'd like to think about. There's a lot of it that does not get reported, and of course, Children's Cove, does address it. And I don't think they have a comfort dog.
I don't think they have one on staff, but we are affiliated with them. We are one of their towns that they do cover.
Okay.
So I'm
of
hoping
course
that
they are, Barnstable County.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in the future, if we have to go there, I'm hoping that they will accept her, and maybe we can see if we can start a partnership with them, with her coming as well.
Well, if they don't, I'll raise hell with Mark Forrest, who's the current chair, and say you ought to, get on them, to do that, because it's very important. One, the process down there is to have a therapeutic liaison with someone who's been a victim of abuse, and they only and what they use is a one-way mirror, and there's the victim and the therapist are there, and the therapist is getting questions through his earphone so that the kid isn't intimidated by what's going on, because they've already been in an extremely traumatic situation, and Christians would be aware that the only thing that Christ really cursed was anybody that destroys the innocence of a child was better that a rock be put around their neck and thrown into the ocean. And my wife, who was at behavioral sciences, behavioral services down in Hyannis, said exactly the same thing. There's no cure for it. It's just vigilance that has to happen, and somehow or other there has to be some way, an easy path. And a comfort dog, comfort animal, I think is very important. Can't be a cat though. Cats are such attitude. But a dog is where it's at.
I think so.
Now let's talk a little bit about some of the examples of community. Community involvement. I know you have. Do you use the dispatch from the county?
No, so we have all 911 dispatches through our department. The county is used for fire and ambulance rescue, but all calls come into our dispatch first, and then we transfer them over to the county for the fire and the rescue calls.
Well, I'm glad to hear it comes directly to the town, because this is where where the response is. Yeah. Do you participate in emergency planning?
Yep, we do.
Okay. And I know that Sean O'Brien, has been a terrific guy as far as that part of it goes. He came up with the idea years ago that there should be two chairs, one from the red and one from the blue, because in that way you were dealing with the different kinds of first response, and let's say I'm bazoning on the word. There is a designation of who is in charge of a response. It depends. Now, I'd seen because I did go through the training down at Fort McClellan. Not to run it, but just to find out what the job was, so I could keep people away from the people doing the job. And I could explain to them, this is what their job is. Let them do it. Was that whoever was in command and control, had to be, had to understand what the pieces and parts were, and they found that the police department is trained to take over on a single person basis, because they're on the scene and they're directing what's going on, whereas the fire service goes as a team to every place. So the first person that responds in the police department is one person. The people who respond in the fire department are a team. So the idea is you have different. In my opinion, there's a different approach to things. And by having these two chairs in the emergency planning, everybody gets to understand what the other person is. We also introduced the health, health agents, because that was also part of it, because there was an interoperability. That was, I remember are you using that? Because Plymouth County couldn't, although they're bigger and richer, they wouldn't come up with any dough at all. And I was concerned about Barnstable and Plymouth, interacting, with each other. And I'm hoping that that's still, the interoperability is still there, so we can call on Plymouth.
The interoperability is there, and we have a great working relationship with Chief Cody and the members of the fire department. They do a phenomenal job providing a service to the town. When it comes to an emergency planning, we all sit down at the table. There's no egos at it. That's one of the phenomenal things with this town is you can get all the department heads in the room, and no one is stomping their feet or pounding their chest. We all have the best interests of the community at heart, and it's nice to be able to have that environment where it's not, well, how can my department be better than your department? It's how can we all help each other so that the service to the town is better.
Well, one of the issues for a lot of organizations, unfortunately, is maintaining that edge. Okay, and if you lose the edge, you find out there's a lot of excuse me. There's a lot of opportunities to actually get stuff done. Yeah.
And we with all the departments in town, we provide a great service to everyone. And going back to how we talked about the community service, how people can help us out with anything with any department in town, it's just reaching out to that particular department, whether it's the highway department or the police department or fire department, just letting them know of any concerns you have so that we can actually address those concerns. We can't fix what we don't know about. And we can patrol and find stuff, but we're not going to catch everything. There's definitely more residents in town than there are police officers, firefighters, DPW workers. So that it's very key to have that feedback and interaction.
Well, is there a forum that they can use, or is there some type of a let's say a regular interaction that could contribute to that?
So for the police department, we do have a form on our website. We have for various reporting of different issues, whether it's a roadway issue, a speeding issue. We have a few forms on our website, which is www.bournepolice.com. Our Facebook page is another way of sharing that information out. Twitter, we also have an Instagram. Those are all the ways of reaching out to us. Our phone number, 508-759-4451. That gets you the same dispatcher that'll answer the 911 call. So clearly 911 is for emergencies, and we like to maintain those, but you're going to get that same local person answering the phone that's familiar with the town, that is able to, so when you say, yeah, I have an issue with the traffic sign at Grandma's Rotary. Some people might not understand what that is. Our officers do.
Yeah, Grandma's Rotary is where the CVS is, and it's worth your life to try to get in that parking lot. I often wonder when Grandma's was active. I hate lemon meringue pies, but that was the best
cream
one.
pie, though.
Oh, hey, but that was back in the day, right? Oh God, yeah. That's why it's important to have somebody that both understands the town and sort of understands all those little alleyways.
And we have some unique roads that we have Maryland and Maryland. The roads sound familiar, and so when somebody
Valley Bar's road that goes and disappears and reappears, and what's that all about? Now, one of the things that I personally was involved with was. I was the transportation for my aunt, when she was alive, and she lived in Marion. And one of the things that the Marion police did was they had a call-in service. People called into the police station every morning to show they were alive. And that if they didn't call in, somebody would go out to see what was going on. Is there anything like that on the horizon for?
We don't have a program like that, but that town does have a phenomenal counseling aging service, and I know that they have very good interactions with the community. And we are looking at a silver alert program to help out with some of these things. But that's an interesting topic we can look into.
Oh, good. Because, that would be, the only thing that was on top. Because when my aunt passed, I made a point of calling, the Marion police and telling them how grateful I was for that. Because I could also call them and they would go out if she wasn't answering the phone. And I didn't have to come over from here, to go over there.
One of the unique things about our department is we take calls for any type of well-being check, anything. So we've had them. So if we've got calls for my light, I don't know how to replace my light. An officer will go out and check on it because it's a quality of life. There's no, well, we can't help you. We'll at least send an officer out and see if there's something we can help with.
That's great to hear.
That's what we're here for.
Okay. Well, actually, we're coming to the end of this program, and I always ask guests as to what kind of a takeaway do you want to have people have for this appearance. Let's start with Colleen. What kind of a takeaway would you like to have?
I think that realistically, I just want people to know that, we're here to help. Callie's really here to introduce herself to the community. She'll see her around town. She'll be a regular, and hopefully we can, have some great outings with her over the summer and some great interactions.
Okay, well, summertime is coming up and more
Real
kids
quick.
are out, so I would expect that if I go to the recently renovated splash pad, that she would be there.
I hope so.
Okay, and Chief, what do you want people to take away from this?
What I want them to take away is that we're here to help, we're here to support. We need the community's help to do that. Never feel that you can't reach out to us. No problem is too small for us to look into, and a little patience goes a long way these days. So just take the time, take a breath, be patient.
That's good advice. Can you suggest some methods where people can take a breath?
Perfect example, traffic. It's okay. We have a beautiful area. Take a look outside the window and see what the beautiful scenery is like, as opposed to honking your horn and starting to use some choice words at people. We're all trying to get the same place. Summer traffic comes every year. Speeding and driving in a dangerous manner aren't going to get you there any safer.
Well, I do recall driving in Houston and recognizing that everybody that was around me had a gun, and so I stayed in the lane. So yeah, I think that's important to have patience. And the other part is that people should be encouraged to carpool and also use public transportation. I know Tommy Cahill would want you to do that, and when in my conversations with him about that, it's important to get out of your own car, and maybe that would relieve the traffic patterns that you're responsible for. So with that, I want to thank Chief Esip for coming. I want to thank Colleen, for coming and introducing us to the dog.
Of course.
And I want to thank the viewers to watch and realize that we have a friendly police department. Like, was it, what is that West Side Story where they talked about officer friendly? Well, here we are, officer friendly, and the Bourne Police Department is not only there to help, but they're there to recognize that they're all part of this community, and they want you to know that as well. So with that, I want to thank the viewers, I want to thank my guest, and you've been watching a production of Bourne TV.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall. Now all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend.